Hi, it's Katrina! From a mysterious burial next to a forgotten pyramid to an old Italian village emerging from a lake, here are 10 amazing recent archaeological discoveries. Number 10. Mysterious Pyramid. The skeleton of a young girl has been discovered buried next to one of the most mysterious pyramids in all of Egypt. According to information released by the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, the girl is estimated to have been around 13 years old when she died. She was found buried beside the Mound pyramid, partially collapsed and largely neglected. This is not a very famous archaeological site, despite the pyramid being impressive and old. The Mound pyramid was built 4,600 years ago as a step pyramid, before later being converted into a pyramid with smooth surfaces. After being turned into a true pyramid, it was about 300 feet tall. Archaeologists believe it was built for the pharaoh Snefru, who reigned between 2575 and 2551 BC. This guy actually built quite a few pyramids throughout the area, with scientists and historians suggesting he had been trying to figure out how to build the perfect pyramid through trial and error. It was Snefru's son and successor Khufu who would go on to build the Great Pyramid of Giza. As for the young girl, she was found in a cemetery beside the pyramid with her bones positioned as if she had been squatting when buried. Inside the cemetery, archaeologists also found a pair of severed bull heads and 3 ceramic vessels. However, they can't quite figure out who the girl was or why she was buried so close to the pyramid. She may have had some kind of relation to the pharaoh Snefru. Number 9. Oldest tattoo tools. It turns out that tattoos may have begun life in Tennessee. As strange as that is to hear, according to Science News, the oldest known tattoo tools anywhere in the world have just been found at an ancient archaeological site in Tennessee. The tools were crafted from turkey leg bones and were used to give tattoos at least 3,600 years ago. In fact, turkey bones were used by Native Americans as far back as 5,000 years ago, making the indigenous people in the Tennessee area some of the first people in the world to get tattoos, other than, of course, Otzi the Iceman. Otzi died 5,250 years ago, got frozen in ice, then was found in modern times with the oldest known tattoos on his flesh. While ancient people most likely did have tattoos thousands of years ago, no actual tattooing tools have been found that date back that far. Along with the turkey bones, investigators found other instruments used for giving tattoos. Researchers say the pigments used to actually make the tattoo designs were stored in seashells, which the tattooist would then dip the pointed turkey bone into, just like how a modern tattooist dips his needle into a little thimble of ink. But instead of ink, they were using pigments derived from plants. Based on the evidence, people use red or black pigment, and sometimes both. Number 8. Ukraine Burial Mound. A unique burial mound has been discovered in Ukraine, complete with a prehistoric stone circle. The burial mound and stone circle date back to around 5,500 years ago. The discovery itself was made during road work near a rural village. Compared to other burial mounds in the area, this one is absolutely enormous, with a length of 394 feet and a height of 21 feet. Excavators had to use bulldozers to remove the thin layers of earth to get at the archaeological evidence below. Archaeologists have so far discovered at least 24 burials inside of the huge mound. It was like a communal cemetery used by people from the Bronze Age, ancient Scythian warriors, and even by people in the Middle Ages. But what really excited archaeologists was when they found stone blocks forming a circle with a diameter of about 60 feet, known as a cromlech. Researchers can't figure out which came first, the burial mound or the stone circle. What they do know is that the people who built the circle were almost certainly nomads who lived throughout modern Ukraine and the surrounding area, while some of the later burials are significantly more recent. Back in the days when the burial mound was still being used, it would have been more of a giant complex, slightly similar to Stonehenge. It obviously didn't have stones quite as large, but the burial complex itself would have been much bigger than what you see today. It may have even been a site of great importance to different tribes and different people living in the general area. Number 7. Silla Kingdom Princess. A grave belonging to an ancient princess has been discovered literally overflowing with gold. Found in southeastern South Korea, according to the Jeongju National Research Institute for Cultural Heritage, A trove of treasures and ancient artifacts were found inside the tomb of a princess from the Silla kingdom, which dates back to the 5th century. The Silla kingdom ruled the majority of the Korean peninsula for at least 1,000 years, from between 57 BC and 935 AD. Researchers found a crown, pendants, gold chest ornaments, bracelets and rings, a knife decorated in silver, and hundreds of stones that were used to play the ancient board game Baduk, what you might know as Go. Normally, the stones from the board game were only found in tombs belonging to males from royal families, so archaeologists always thought that it could only be played by men. But this time, it was in the tomb of a girl. She was exempt from the rules, so she was most likely very special. All of these incredible artifacts were found at the huge excavation site, which was once the capital city of the legendary Silla Kingdom, home today to at least 300,000 people. Based on the abundance of gold, the woman must have been part of an aristocratic family and was probably younger than her other royal family members, seeing as her grave was actually smaller than many of the others. The best guess is that she was some kind of a princess. We know that she lived a life of luxury, but she died very young. Number 6. Old Roman baths. Archaeologists in Spain have stumbled upon an ancient Roman bath complex preserved for thousands of years thanks to sand dunes. The discovery was announced by archaeologists with the University of Cádiz, who found not only the Roman bath, but also an ancient tomb. This Roman bathhouse is known as a thermae, and it was where the old citizens of Rome came to wash, get some exercise, relax, and of course talk shop. The remains were perfectly preserved underneath the sand for about 2,000 years. Archaeologists had to excavate its walls, which were over 13 feet tall. The remains were found right on the beach, which is perhaps the most shocking part. Beachgoers at the Cañas de Meca beach have literally been walking over the remains of the ancient structure without even knowing it. As of right now, researchers have only excavated 2 of the building's rooms, but say that the entire structure once covered an area of over 2.5 acres. The Romans first seized this area of Spain in the 2nd century BC, and as is the Roman fashion, they established public baths. And down the coast, archaeologists also discovered salting pools and a tomb that dates back 4,000 years. Both structures were also preserved thanks to the sand dunes. The burial structure was filled with 7 corpses, though researchers don't know right now who they were or exactly which culture they belong to. And now for number 5. But first, want to say a big thank you to Steve Payne and Jazzy J Sky. Thanks so much for spending time with us and supporting Origins Explained. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like these. Number 5. Viking Caves. Almost 1,100 years ago, a volcano erupted in Iceland. The Vikings had arrived just before, and this eruption must have scared them to death, and most likely made them believe that Ragnarok was coming. Once the lava cooled, it created caves and tunnels. The Vikings entered a cave and created a boat-shaped structure made out of rocks and sacrificed all kinds of animals there to appease the gods. Besides burnt animal bones, archaeologists were shocked to find beads and minerals that came all the way from the Middle East, indicating that the Vikings had quite an extensive trade network. If you want to experience a pristine Viking village that will have you feeling as though you were back in the days of the ancient Scandinavian warriors, you should definitely visit Hub, Iceland. The village is complete with Viking huts, a spooky tunnel, and even a dungeon underneath a boulder. While it is not actually an ancient village, it was recreated to the last detail and is open for visitors to come and see what life was like in the past. It was made to look exactly like a traditional Viking village from around the 10th century. It's surrounded by cows and horses grazing in the fields, beautiful mountains, and it was finally used just recently in a movie from Universal Studios called Vikinger, directed by a local Icelandic named Baltazar Kormakur. Number 4. Prehistoric Peruvian Huntress. Archaeologists have made a truly amazing discovery in Peru. They have found the remains of a young woman hunter who lived in the region 9,000 years ago. So far, all the evidence suggests that this woman was only one among many female hunters who tracked down and killed big game animals. What this means is that women likely had a much larger role in hunting than previously believed, shattering the idea of classic hunter-gatherer roles, with the men hunting and the women gathering. It turns out the duties may have been shared. The discovery came from a grave high up in the mountains at the site of Villa Maya Patja. According to Randall Haas, an archaeologist from the University of California, he and other researchers uncovered stone tools and projectiles buried with the woman's skeleton. At first, they thought they had dug up the body of a great chief, a he-chief. It wasn't until the bones were analyzed that researchers realized they were dealing with a woman, a very young woman at that, who died between the age of 17 and 19. After this discovery, there was a study that looked at the published records of almost 430 burials across the Americas. What they discovered were 27 humans buried alongside their hunting tools. 11 of the bodies were female and 15 were male. This means that before societies really began to take root, men and women might have been on much more equal footing, at least in the world of hunting. Number 3. Ancient string. Researchers have stumbled upon the very first evidence that Neanderthals were able to make string. As mundane and boring as this might sound, it's actually quite fascinating. This discovery means that our primitive ancestors figured out not only how to use stone tools, but how to turn plant fibers into string, which was arguably the most important invention ever, as it gave rise to every invention that came after. Imagine all the things you can make and do with string. Catch fish, trap animals, make jewelry, make clothes, connect things. I mean, the possibilities thousands of years ago were endless. The discovery was made when researchers spotted a white splotch on a stone tool once used by a Neanderthal. When they checked the stone tool using a microscope, they discovered fibers. Closer examination recognized the fibers as belonging to a string. According to the scientists who made the discovery at Kenyon College in Ohio, the fact that Neanderthals could make string suggests they could make other things as well, such as bags and fabrics. If you're wondering just how old the string is, think back to about 50,000 years to southeastern France. The stone tool came from an archaeological site in the Rhone River Valley. The string itself was made from fiber taken from the inner layer of bark of local trees. Neanderthals twisted bundles of fiber together until they had weaved a perfectly strong string that could be used for reinforcing tools or even making loincloths, though there has never actually been any evidence suggesting that Neanderthals ran around covering themselves. Number 2. Lost Italian village. After being submerged for 70 years, an old Italian village has re-emerged from a lake like the phoenix rising from the ashes. Well, not quite the same, but still pretty cool. For the past 7 decades, the only visible part of the village of Curon has been a lonely church tower rising out of the water. The iconic 14th century village was once home to around 1,000 people, but government officials decided to build a dam for a nearby hydroelectric plant. The entire place was covered with water. The only thing that remained was the bell tower poking out of the lake that has drawn tourists from all over the world. When the water freezes, you can actually go up to it and touch it. Now, more recently, the lost town began resurfacing, at least temporarily. Workers had to drain the lake to make repairs to the hydroelectric plant. This exposed stone steps, arched cellars, medieval buildings, and so much more. The big bummer is that it happened during the pandemic and there were no tourists around to see it. Plus, the village was only revealed for a handful of weeks until maintenance was done, and the area was flooded once again. If you were hoping to get a glimpse of a flooded Italian village, you've missed your chance. You might have to wait another 70 years until maintenance is done again, or you can visit the town in the winter when the lake is covered in ice and you can go skating. Number 1. The oldest gold. Archaeologists in Germany have discovered the country's oldest golden artifact. It came from the southwest when researchers excavated a Neolithic burial site containing the corpse of a woman in the fetal position. The only object found inside the woman's burial was a ring of gold that may have been part of a hair ornament. What's truly mysterious is that the gold spiral probably came from Britain and was transported to the continent via a complicated trading network that existed several thousand years ago. The woman's remains were carbon dated, placing her death between 1850 and 1700 BC. She was likely someone of high status because of the gold, which also contains 20% silver and traces of platinum and tin. The composition suggests the natural gold comes from a river, specifically an English river. This is the oldest piece of gold jewelry found in Germany, and suggests that even thousands of years ago, the early people living in the United Kingdom had a significant influence over Central Europe. Remember, this is back in the 2nd century BC. Even back then, the UK was gaining a global foothold through trade. Thanks for watching! Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon!